Perfect. So Tris is saying that we should be live everywhere now. I'm seeing we have one participant. Welcome, Estelle. And we are going to wait a few minutes to leave some time to other people to join. Okay, we'll start, and that is probably going to make the other people join us. Welcome to this second edition of Ask Us. As a reminder, our first session was dedicated to the impact of the COVID crisis on the Doctolib's product. You can watch it again if you visit doctolib.engineering. We have recorded it and it's available on YouTube. But you can always find it by our new space for all things engineering related at Doctolib at doctolib.engineering. If you are watching this from YouTube, be sure to hit the like button to let us know that you liked it. Subscribe and maybe share it with your friends. So what about this session? This session is going to talk about growth. Doctolib was born something like 6 years ago. And during that time, we went from 4 founders to 1,500 people. More than that, I guess. I think we hit that mark a few weeks ago. So it's quite a path, quite a growth. And during this journey, we faced many challenges, and lots of people ask us questions about how we handled certain things. What were the impact of having a growing team on your organization, on your knowledge management, on the way you manage people, on the way you manage your team. So we decided to do a Q&A panel for that effect. By the way, you can ask your questions with the Q&A panel, which is available at the bottom of your screen if you're using Zoom. So I spoke too much already, and as you can see, I'm far from being the most interesting person in that Zoom today. Please meet Madia and Marcus. Madia, this is your first Ask Us session. I'm super happy that to have you with us. You are a product management strategist at Doctolib. That means that your mission is to build the most efficient product team possible at Doctolib, both in organizational strategy and on process and best practices. Am I right?
Yes, exactly. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be in this session today.
Super happy that you accepted to join us. Marcus, I won't ever be able to present you as well as you could do it yourself. So I'm going to ask you please to introduce yourself, and thank you for joining this session as well.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Alex. My name is Marcus, VP Engineering for Doctolib Germany. So my focus is also in today's call and in my job in general. Doctolib in Germany, growing Doctolib in Germany. I did a lot of things in my life. I came around the block. I started startups by myself, but also worked in bigger enterprises. But my passion always was in building teams and building things. And this was exactly the mindset when I started around about nearly on the day 2 years ago. in an empty room, alone in Berlin, and thinking about for a couple of weeks how to build a tech center for Doctolib in Germany. And now I'm so proud to have more than 65 people just 2 years later, and this is what we are calling hypergrowth. And I think this is exactly the topic of today's call.
Thank you, Martus. So let's move on to questions then. I have a few already on my own, but as I told you, feel free to ask all your questions into the Q&A panel at the bottom of your Zoom window. So, Marcus, this one is probably for you. You told us that you started at Doctolib 2 years ago to build a German tech center. Could you please describe us what it was at that time to build from the ground up this tech center, and what was your main challenge then?
So exactly as I already said, the problem was I was alone in a room. So it was not that I came to an established environment, at least in Berlin. So there were no processes, there were no structure, there were nothing. It was a plain empty field. And the first challenge was really to think about, okay, what is the best starting step? What is the best first movement to create an equivalent representative of Doctolib in France to Berlin? And also carrying the right mindset, which were built over years before in Paris, but also adopted with a Berlin touch to make a local footprint of the Doctolib spirit, so to say. And also set up recruiting processes, and nothing was really established. I started with one intern from a talent team or an HR team, which gave me one intern for the first talent acquisition processes. And so we started bringing the first talents really in a very hands-on approach, and building then a very complex process and a very solid process for talent acquisition, because recruiting was our main activities, and it's
so fully focused on recruitment. Nice. Could you give us, you already shared with us the number of people that joined you at the German Tech Center, but could you dive a bit on the structure of the organization, how many feature teams you have, how many product person you have, how many topics you're trying to address, and what are your actual most difficult challenges?
So again, main challenge is still growing and recruiting. So we are operating at the moment 6 feature teams in Berlin. So in Doctolib in total, we have currently 21-ish, I guess. So we started with 12 in the beginning of the year. We want to grow the company until around about 30 until end of the year. And currently we have 6 in place in Berlin. So this also shows a little bit of the ratio of the tech center in Berlin compared to the big mother or big brother in Paris. And every feature team is representing an engineering manager, a product manager, and then 5 to 7 full stack developers. And we also tried to implement our different product lines, which were called domains in Doctolib, within the geo. So this means that we have a kind of autonomous approach in the location itself. So for Paris, for Berlin, and also for our new tech center in Nantes. And also every product line has a strong relationship to each other. So what's happened on the patient side have, of course, impact on the doctor side. And so there are strong links in between the domains. Like we try to bundle the workforce within the product line, that we have the right workforce, higher power within the domain to reduce alignment in between the geos and keep the pace at the needed speed.
How many feature teams do you plan on having by the end of the year in Berlin?
Sorry, I've lost you for 10 seconds.
Sorry, Wi-Fi. How many feature teams are you planning on having in Berlin by the end of this year?
By the end of this year, we want to have 8 feature teams, and we're planning to have 4 to 6 in the upcoming year. So yeah, still growing.
Okay, so doubling the size of the team over a little bit more than a year.
Exactly.
What did change process-wise with the size of your team during the last year?
I would say in the beginning, everything was in a kind of hyper startup mode. Everybody did everything somehow. And of course, now with more than 60, 65 people, we have, of course, more specialists. And of course, what's the big game changer is we have way more supporting roles around our tech team. We have an established talent team, not only intern, now we have full-fledged talent acquisition managers supporting us. We have strong support from administrative side, visa, we are hiring international. So we have, with more than 60 people, we have more than 25 nationalities in the Berlin Tech Center. So it's not a German location, it's an international team, which is based in Berlin. But saying this means, of course, we have a lot of efforts with visas, bringing people in from all over the world, from India, from Argentina, from Brazil, from the US. And of course, you can imagine COVID is not supporting us in this activity. So there is a lot of efforts we need to invest, and we are very appreciating that we have a lot of supporting people in the company in the meantime, which is a real change to what we did in the beginning, where I have to call authorities, for example, to speed things up.
And to add on this, regarding the second product and feature team's organization, if I talk generally, but also more specifically in the Berlin office, we're always trying to have in the feature team, as Marcus mentioned, the product manager, the engineering manager, the developers, but also a product designer, a user researcher, and a data analyst, at least for the team. And so it's really good that regarding our talent strategy and hiring strategy, what is the aim here is to have user researchers that are really in the Berlin office. We have our first user researcher solely in the Berlin office that has been hired in the previous weeks. There are some product designers also who were hired in the following months. There is a UX writer as well who is joining the team soon. So there is, of course, these people who are really in the office in the Berlin office, but there's also still some communication and strategy and processes that are created to keep on an overall cross-team communication. And the strategy that we have is always to have a global view on whether it is on the organizational strategy that we define, or on the processes that we implement in order to ensure that we answer our users' needs and apply the best organizational strategy and most relevant ones for this.
Thanks. I'm taking a chance to remind to all our attendees that you are able to send all your questions through the Q&A box. Feel free to send us anything you can think of. We'd be more than happy to answer yours. I have one for you, Madia. You joined Doctolib not so long ago, in absolute time, because in Doctolib's time, it's super long, because we tend to do lots of things in a short time. So we went through many things since, but could you share what does look like the onboarding at Doctolib for a product person?
Sure. So I would say that there are three main steps. First one is the Doctolib Academy. It is actually a common ground for all new Doctolibers. And so it is really a good chance for us to present the different, the Doctolib's values and missions and strategy, and then the different teams, so that everyone has a 360 view on what we're doing. So we're now reaching more than 1,500 people. It's very important that everyone has the same view on Doctolib. That lasts for, I would say, a week to 10 days. And then there is the product camp and tech camp, where you get to deep dive on some specific tech and product rituals and ways of working, etc., and ramp up. And then on the third hand, you have an on-field training and mentorship. It could be either informal or very well defined. For instance, for the developers, there is an initiative that is called the Starsky and Hutch, where each, I'd say, former or experienced developer has a few new joiners who are helped on both learning the processes at Doctolib, but also like ramp up on the knowledge with some champions, I would say. And in addition to this, there is some reminder after a month of recap, because when you arrive, there's a lot of things that you learn. And so after a month, you have a new presentation on, for instance, the marketing team and the product team, et cetera, so that you know who to go talk to depending on your needs, and also like what are the different teams and how they are organized in order to have this global view that I talked about.
Thank you, Madi. We have one question from YouTube. That one is probably more for Marcus. How do you plan to handle L&D for a 100% growth of team size? Like code contribution guidelines, making sure processes are maintained and knowledge is shared properly.
So I think it's just a follow-up answer what Madi already started to explain. So we have a very structured onboarding plan. So it's not like that you're throwing people in the water and tell them how to swim. It's more like that we are welcome people. Then we have the Doctor Academy, as already mentioned, which I always compare to a high-speed fueling and Formula One, having a lot of information in a very short period of time. But then we also provide time to digest this knowledge and recap again and again and again. Not only in trainings, but mainly in programs like Starsky and Hutch, like shadowing, pair programming. So we're insisting a lot in this training on the job, combined with also dedicated training sessions. So learning from more experienced Doctolibers about the processes, but also we have the structure in place. For example, we have a whole engineering efficiency team in place, which helps the whole development departments or units globally in all tech centers to hire their efficiency, to work, and they provide data, they provide assistance to have a better way to develop and improve ourselves on a permanent level.
Thank you, Marcus.
Completely agree on what Marcus said, and just maybe to add one thing here is that there are the sessions, the live sessions that have been existing for a while now, that are indeed really useful. And there is another topic that we've been launching, because the question, if I understood correctly, also mentions the knowledge issue. Which is something that needs to be shared in a scalable way. And so for this, what we are working on now is to add to this live sessions a written support, both for the product knowledge, so that everyone has common ground instead of going to have to talk to the various experts and tribal knowledge. And another one is to have more product let's say, guidelines to have a sole and common basis. And a third branch would be some live trainings. Both tech and product teams have actually revamped their growth programs to enable people to know exactly on which skills or competencies to develop on, and having some learning catalogs to develop on. And this is both for the tech and product team, but in a more global way for all Doctolib talent strategy.
Thank you, Madi. I'm going to add a few tactical precision on top of that. In the tech team, we tend to meet globally every 2 weeks during what we call a tech time. Tech time is kind of an internal meetup where everybody shares his learnings, his new tricks, his best practice, and so on. But we don't rely 100% on attendance to take time for people to embrace the new ways we choose to take, the new paths we choose to walk. We tend to automatize as many things as possible. For example, when a few code constructs for developers are considered as improper, we tend to add new custom rules to our linters, and as well, regarding the Starsky and Hutch program, which is a mentoring program, one of our engineering manager, Flavio, built an automated curriculum allowing the participants to go through each technical topic in a way with a judge of progression. So in order to make the process of learning the stack as scalable as possible. So that's it. That's it for this one. I hope we did answer it as expected. Regarding scaling, Doctolib is composed of 3 tech centers as of now. The historical tech center from Paris, the second one, which was born in Berlin 2 years ago, and we did open less than a year ago a tech center in Nantes in France. How do you manage on the tech and on the product side to collaborate properly between those 3 tech centers while all those teams are growing and are facing other challenges, scaling challenges?
It's actually a topic that when I arrived was one of the main challenges that we wanted to address. I would say, well, let's say 4 points. First one is to always, as I said earlier, have a global approach in mind when we define the organizational strategy, when we define the process that we're gonna work on, both within feature teams and cross teams. Also having a common, as we know that we're gonna serve actually a common user base. That means that all the teams are gonna work on a same product. And that means that we need to communicate very efficiently. So that's the first thing, is really to have this global view in mind, and always thinking of things that are going to work with the different tech centers. Second topic would be to keep team building and collaboration and team spirit. There, as you mentioned, Alex, earlier, some common team rituals. There are 3 that I have in mind. For the product team, there is the weekly product team meeting. For the tech team, there is the bi-monthly tech time, and there is every month a tech and product all hands, where the almost 300 actually people now meet to keep on this alignment that I mentioned earlier. Another one would be a common communication channel. For instance, if there's going to be a release or things like that, we have a really with Slack or by email, the good threads, the right threads to communicate on. And finally, there is internal mobility. So you know that, for instance, people who are not have before been in Paris, same goes for Berlin, and the other way can move, of course. So yeah.
This is a perfect transition for a question we got from Beata. Thank you for your question. How does the exchange program between Berlin and Paris works? What positives and negatives did it bring?
So we have indeed an exchange program. Of course, based on the current situation, it was slowed down a little bit, but it's part of the growth plan of our developers, our tech supporters, that they should broaden their horizon and spend their time in completely different aspects. So engineers going to a technical support area, someone from data and business scale is coming to the patient teams to do the live my life, as we call it. And of course, it was super attractive for people in Paris to do their live my life, not only in a different product line, but also changing the tech center. Coming to Berlin, and we welcome people never been in Germany, never been in Berlin before. So it was super nice. Not only show our tech center, show what Berlin means, which different vibe in the tech scene is fading here in the city, and the way around. So we had people, new joiners, new engineering manager, went to Paris for 6 weeks just to get into the management structure, the management culture, and also came back with a completely different view on the city and Doctolib itself. So this is very positive. Negative is a way more difficult question, because I have to think really about what are negative aspects. I think we fought a lot against stereotypes in the beginning. So the stereotypes of the French and the stereotypes of the German. And the most surprising thing, as I already mentioned, is that the team in Germany, as a German, you're in a minority. So we're not representing a German stereotype, but it was also a very positive aspect, because it was breaking the walls of stereotypes and get a better understanding of each other. So exchange, only good aspects in the program.
I can remember a negative aspect, if I may. I remember having lost in a single week 2 of my developers for the German Tech Center.
I'm still feeling bad about that.
But yeah, you sum it up well. To us, Beata, it's super important to lower the walls between the teams, the functions. We even have people that have changed jobs inside of Doctolib. We have a couple of developers that used to do something completely different. For example, one of them was a sales. I'm pretty sure we have another one who used to have been a QA engineer, and with now a developer as well. So all in all, it's only positive, because the thing is, we can make casting errors when we hire someone or when we send someone to a team, but allowing the people to move between the teams, it's a way to correct that and keep them with us in the best setup possible for them and for us. So all in all, it's also a super tool to transfer knowledge from a team to another.
Couldn't agree more. And in addition to this, it was, of course, a big help to have, I would say, settled Doctolibers in the beginning coming to Berlin. And these guys came to Berlin without being in Berlin before. They said, new tech center, we're willing to go there. And this was a big help also to establish a kind of Doctolib mindset from square one, and not implement it by myself. Even I was a fresher back in the day.
Thank you. We have another one. I've been meaning to apply for a position in product at Doctolib. What specific qualities do you look for in a junior PM in Berlin?
So I would say that actually what we're looking for a good junior PM in Berlin or in Paris or in Nantes would actually be the same. We have, I would say, five, axes that we rely on. First one is actually being a leader. So that means being proactive, being able to collaborate within the future team, but also across the various the Doctolib teams, and being solution oriented. Second one is that when we deliver on a project, having an efficient methodology and efficient processes to deliver correctly. The third one was to always start with the problem to deliver the highest value possible for our users. Fourth one is to be insight driven. And the fifth one is to contribute to make the organization better. So as long as you show these initiatives and these priorities, whether you are in the Paris and the North or the Berlin office, you're most welcome to join us.
Do I need any previous experience in the healthcare field of activity?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. To apply as a PM at Doctolib, do I need any former experience in the healthcare domain?
No, actually, first, you don't necessarily need a healthcare previous experience. Personally, I didn't have it, and I can think of a lot of other PMs, but also other tech and product team members who didn't have it before. But you need to be interested, I would say, of course, in the sector, and more generally in really serving our users, both patients and healthcare professionals, and more generally, actually, you don't necessarily need to have previous experience in product management for certain positions. We know that product management does not exist since 50 years, and there is a gap actually to enter this field. So we always try to learn from best practices in various tech companies. And we're trying now to actually apply a great recipe of success according to Google, for instance, but also Facebook, LinkedIn, et cetera, which is having an associate product management program. And that means that you are actually trained on the field by experienced product managers to become one of our product management leaders.
Nice. To complete that, on the tech side, it's pretty much the same thing. We tend to look at people's abilities before looking at their background. We have, of course, people having come through usual CS background, but we have other people that went through technical boot camps, and that's it. We focus on people and not on what's on the paper. Thank you for sharing that. We have another question related to recruitment. Did the COVID pandemic change our recruitment strategy?
The simple and fast answer, no. We haven't slowed down. We continued as we did before because we knew exactly, times will change and our mission will stay. And for our mission, we need the workforce. And so that's why we immediately decided not to change anything in the beginning of the pandemic and hired even more in the pandemic times than before.
Only the tactic has changed as we started to see more and more candidates remotely. Booking a room was no longer an issue, which is fine. What potential career paths do we offer in the product organization? I guess this one is for you, Maddy.
Sure. So I would say that there are two main paths within the product organization. or tracks. The first one is the individual contributor one, and then the second one is the management one. There are 4 roles within the product management the product management organization. There is the product manager. There is the senior product manager who takes on more complex topics or feature teams and can take also various feature teams. Then there is the lead product manager, who is the first step in the management track, and who can oversee 3 to 5 feature teams. And finally, there is the product director position, who has the vision on the whole domain or product line, as Marcus introduced earlier on. And in addition to this, there is the associate product management program that I mentioned, which is the entry point, one of the entry points, of course, for non-experienced product managers.
I think this one is interesting. We have another question about the APM program. Is it open to outside candidates as well, or is it just for lucky Doctolibers?
It will be. On the longer run, we try to do what we advise anyone in the product work to do, which is to test and learn. And so we just launched our first session, and it was open in a pilot mode only internally to internal mobility purposes. And so it's just going to start by the end of October. And then we're gonna learn from it, and based on this, open it to the various offices and also externally for either out of school people, but also experienced people who are coming from various sectors, who have the intrinsics needed for product management and who would like to enter the product world.
Thank you. One I'd like to ask myself is, at some point, something failed. What was, in your opinion, our biggest failure and the biggest learning we got from it during the last year regarding the scaling of the teams?
I think we've underestimated the administrative efforts which is needed to drive a machinery like this, because we're still pacing fast, and in some moment you have to step back and say, okay, now I have to rethink my processes. I have to rethink what is needed from the sideline. I mentioned, for example, talent acquisition, HR ops. These supporting many, and we've underestimated this, and we learned a lesson here. We built an amazing support engine to our tech and product workforce, and it wasn't a failure. It was more a lesson learned.
Yeah.
I would phrase it that way. And this is definitely something I would operate in a different way if we would start today again from square one. And I already saw the different approaches we took in consideration in opening the next tech center in Nantes. We did a lot of things in a different way, and it was also brilliant to see how we had the first success and the first speed up, even in a smoother way as we've seen in Berlin.
Thank you for that. We are getting close to the time of the end of the session. So please, if you have any other question, just send them to us. In the meantime, I have a question to ask both of you, Marcus and Madi. If you were to give one advice for someone managing a company that is just entering an hyper-growth phase, what would it be? Madi, would you like to go first?
Sure. I'm thinking of a couple of points here. First one is to always remember your North Star. That means why you're doing things. There are various good strategies that you can read all over the world, all over the media, the forums, etc., etc. The one that is going to fit you is the one that is going to fit your organization, the culture that you want to implement, and most importantly, what impact that you want to have and which user needs, I would say, that you want to address. That's the first one. The second one, and that's kind of related to you to the previous question, is really a test and learn mode. Always reassess based on what you have achieved, what you have learned, and always, if you need to pivot, do it, but always learn and learn again. And the final thing that fascinates me at Doctolib is to always actually have ambition, trust the people that you are with, give them responsibility, and give them the freedom to build these things within. That's, in my opinion, the most scalable way to do it. For instance, if you can see in the tech and product organization, for each of them, there is actually, I would say, some initiatives that are built. And they're owned actually by people within the teams. Marcus mentioned it earlier. He was alone in an office and had to build the whole the Berlin office by himself. So yeah, that would be my my three advice, if I may.
Thank you. Marcus?
I couldn't agree more. So if you see the fundamental company's vision is injected by our CEO, and he's repeating it again and again and again and again, only two things we're focusing: changing the healthcare, and the second one, build the best team ever. And this would be my advice. If you go in a grow, and even if you go in a hyper grow mode, there is not enough you can invest in your team, because at the end, it's all about the team. Your mission is based on your team. Your mission lives with your team, and your mission is fueled by your team. So the more you're focusing that your team is empowered, that your team is skilled, that your team is motivated, the better your growth will be operated, and the more successful you will be housing.
Perfect, thanks. We have one last question. This one is a bit far from the topic, but I think it's really important that we answer it. Beata is asking us, I read that you have doctor weekends. How do they look like?
It's very difficult to explain it in words, because you have to see it. You have to be part of a doctor weekend, because it's one, for me, I had the chance only to be at one doctor weekend in my time as a Doctolib, and it was one of the most amazing company events I've ever been. We brought all Doctolibers to Gerba. So everyone from Paris, everyone from France, everyone from Germany was collected in a couple of planes. I don't know how many planes we took to brought the people to Gerba to celebrate the Doctolib success, to celebrate our team spirit, to do workshops, to do games, to get together, to meet people face to face. You only know by video calls normally, if you're not on a daily basis in contact or in a geo contact with them. It was really, really amazing. It was an amazing experience to get together, celebrate together, and it changed also my interaction within Doctolib tremendously.
Yep, I couldn't say it better. Of course, with the actual situation, there is no doctor weekend planned until further notice. But yes, that's the nicest corporate event I ever saw. It's a way for us to share again alignment, strategy, goals as a team, and enjoy a good time with all those people we are working with, without being able to see them in real life the rest of the time. So that's it. No more questions. Thank you, Madia. Thank you, Marcus. And thank you very much to our audience of today. It was a pleasure to share this moment with you. You will be able to watch a replay of this session on our Doctotech Live YouTube channel, or maybe share it with your friends. Be sure to subscribe to our meetup page, because we are going to add more of this kind of events on any topics that could be of interest to you. By the way, you can get in touch with us through Meetup and suggest topics that you'd like to hear more about. And the next session will happen on the 29th of September, and will be mostly about tech at Doctolib. Don't forget to check out doctolib.engineering. And once again, thank you for sharing this moment with us. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.